Well, hello there, all you wonderful people. Devi Baba back again with another video on magical games. This one is about power. So I've got my He-Man shirt on, I got a cup of coffee. Let's talk about power. Power. Well, what is it? Why do we want it? Why are we afraid of it? All right, so the magical game is all about the acquisition and distribution of power. And we're going to get to the distribution part later, but let's first take a step back. We seem to be some kind of animal. And like other animals, human and non-human, we want not only to survive the day, we want to get stronger. We want our lives to get better and improve. And this kind of idea, the idea that all living things seek to get stronger, is what Nietzsche called the will to power. Now, it's a curious phrase. It came from Schopenhauer before Nietzsche, and we're going to put our own twist on it in the great tradition of philosophy, twisting other people's ideas to our own agendas. And we're going to do it today with Nietzsche. And the will to power is this idea. So we're striving to get stronger, and that is the goal of the human animal. The goal of existence is the acquisition of power. All right. So, but what is power? We get the word power from potens potentia, Latin, and that's where we get our word for potential, or potent if something's strong, or impotent, not strong, not able to do something. And what power is the ability to do something. There's no such thing as just raw power. Power is always for some use. And so you can talk about the idea of potential energy versus kinetic energy. Potential energy is like a bowling ball at the edge of a bookcase. Or more potential energy, a bowling ball at the edge of a skyscraper. And if you were to push the bowling ball off of one of these, don't do that. If you were to push a bowling ball off of one of these, it would have kinetic energy. It would be in motion. But in the meantime, it's like that stored energy just waiting to be used. Okay, so what is it being used for? And the goal of the human animal and other animals, but specifically the human animal, seems to be to feel good. Good feelings. And if you ask yourself about any goal you want, anything you want to achieve out in the world, and you ask, what does that get me? And then about that thing, you say, well, what does that get me? Eventually, you're going to land on, I'd be happy, I'd feel good, I'd feel stronger, or I'd feel confident, or something like that. It would be some kind of feeling that we have. And we think that the experience out there is going to give us that feeling. We're not going to debate that right now. It's unimportant right now. But the point is that all of these things are eventually to get us a feeling. And one of the tricks to all this is that actually we create those feelings. In this most sophisticated pharmacy we've encountered in the universe, the human brain creates the feelings, the chemicals that correlate to these feelings. And by manipulating and using your own physiology, how you hold your facial expressions, how you breathe, your physical postures, even the words and things you use in your head, you can change those feelings. You have a lot more power than you realize. A lot more power than you realize. And I'm going to show you just how easy it is to control those states as we go forward. But I'm trying to keep this video short, which is not easy for me. All right. So we're using all of these things, whether it's to get a Ferrari or a raise or a girlfriend or whatever we think we need out there to produce the feelings we imagine we'll have when we get those things. Okay. So let's talk about things worth doing, things worth achieving. If we're going to be pursuing goals in the world, if we're going to be pursuing power, How do we go about doing it? What's the best way of doing it? And now we're going to talk about a little flip back to the last video, mise en place. So mise en place, the idea of clearing things. I said that's the main mechanic for this magical game. But how is mise en place a way of gaining power and not just a thing for clearing surfaces? Well, because it's actually loading that potential energy. When you have a clear surface, you can act. You don't have to do things first. You can just take action. If you've got things all over the place, you've got all kinds of things you need to do before you can take action. If you've got a clear countertop or a clear desk or a clear schedule, you're free to act. When it's cluttered, you're not as free to act. And so by having that potential preloaded, you can act on it. Now, we're going to go into this notion now of habits versus goals. Part of this video was inspired by the Reset Button channel, who asked a question on a previous video, back, I believe it was video 3, so a little ways back, about essentially, these are interesting ideas. Why would somebody want to do this kind of thing? Okay, so, and achieving goals, they suggested, was maybe not quite enough to meet up to the quest. I'm misphrasing what they're saying, but this kind of idea of like, well, is that too small a thing for this? Building habits or achieving goals. And so I want to talk about those two things. So if you have a goal of cleaning your room, you take steps towards cleaning that room, you eventually achieve that goal. But if you don't do anything about what caused that room to reach a state of disorder to begin with, you're going to have to achieve that goal again. If instead you change the habits that led to that thing, you'll both achieve the goal and you'll wire that in, metaphorically speaking, you'll wire that in to your neurology, and it'll become more automatic. It'll a thing that we call a habit. Now, when a habit is truly automatic, it's like you've just delegated that to your unconscious mind. Like it's going back to the getting things done. You've delegated that to somebody that works for you. What would happen if you delegated state management, feeling good, to the part that works for you and you just felt good most of the time? What could you get done? What if you were in control of your levels of confidence or frustration or happiness or optimism? What would that do for you and your ability to do mighty deeds, which is what I'm encouraging? Okay, so this idea of achieving goals, of building habits, I'm going to talk now for a moment about identity, about assuming an identity that pushes that habit into supercharge mode. The power of identity is amazing. It's one of the big powers behind the alter ego and the character in the magical game, is this idea of the effect of identity as a force to drive a person. Not going to get too into that right now. I'm going to talk for a moment about the idea of what Nietzsche called the Übermensch. All right, the Übermensch, the Overman, the Superman, the super character, this idea of this self-actualized, fully activated person that Nietzsche imagined. And some people think of it as a super soldier or something. A lot more think of it as some kind of an artist. And that seems to have backing when you look at Nietzsche's obsession with literature and idolization of Goethe, and this notion of becoming a fully activated, fully engaged, fully powered person. And it gets triggered by things like envy and things like that. They awaken our will to power, our will to be strong, our desire to get better. And they put us in motion towards that. And this means by which we do that is what Nietzsche called Selbstüberwindung. Sorry, German speakers, but I did do it to the French in the last one, to be fair. Selbstüberwindung, or self-overcoming. That when you see something amazing in the world that makes you jealous or excited or whatever, that's igniting something in you. This spark you have to become great, your will to power. That this getting stronger to achieve this state of being. And that's in line with a lot of other thinkers in the past, like Aristotle, the idea that habits, who you are, that's how you live virtues in the world, by who you've become through the practice of these virtues. And so through these virtue habits. So there's self-overcoming. And then there's another concept that Nietzsche has, and it's amor fati, the love of fate, the love of your place, the deck you've been dealt, the character you're playing, and really embracing that and doing that and playing it wholeheartedly. In my own way, I kind of think this is when I think of the Bhagavad Gita and this idea of playing your part fully, doing your thing, being all in, or the Gospel of Thomas, this idea that if you bring forth that which is within you, what you bring forth will save you. And if you do not bring forth that which is within you, what you do not bring forth will destroy you. So this idea of this self waiting to be expressed, power waiting to be expressed. And I might suggest that power wants to be expressed. It is the nature of power to be expressed. And that might be kind of a useful idea when you think about spirits and demons and things we might talk about later. This idea of why the heck would these things want to work with you? Consider the notion that power wants to be expressed. Amor fati, I might also point out, is back to that feelings thing we were talking about before. Can you feel good while you're in the process? Can you feel good in the midst of failing to achieve and getting better at achieving, finding those crucial distinctions with each iteration to get stronger? While that's happening, if you can seize the narrative and instead of saying this will all be worth it eventually, say this is worth it now. This is me becoming stronger now. This is, as a Marine friend used to say, this is pain leaving the body. This is weakness leaving the soul. This is me getting stronger. Expressing that power. All right. So, self-overcoming, love of fate, amor fati. Where does this put us? Well, this puts us back in the space of the whole acquisition and distribution of power. It deals with the idea of, again, why do this? Just to achieve goals? Just to build habits? Kind of. But remember, we're in a bit of an infinite game. This isn't just about achieving one goal. This is about the constant development of you into the ultimate magic user that you can be. That ultimate expression of you, the magic user. And that ultimate expression of your enchanted world that you are building around you each time you engage with these processes. Each time you take control away from other forces out there and take responsibility for driving the bus yourself, being in the driver's seat. Responsibility is squarely in your lap in this philosophy. And so what the heck are you going to do with it? Okay, so the idea in this game is you continue to build and build and build and get stronger. You collect dice and decks and trophies and tokens. But the bar always raises. You always are going to keep aiming to get stronger because the point is not to reach a victory condition. If so, you've been playing a finite game. The point is to continue the play, to continue this sense of engagement that you get with engaging, poor repetitive word choice, with engaging with this universe. And you take an action, and then the universe takes an action. And then it's your turn again. So this idea of power, that we want to control things and smash things, if you actually look into it, and I point you in the direction of Alan Watts on this one, we don't really want power in the sense of control like that. We don't want to control everything. We might think we do. We want to be engaged in the play. And I'm going to have to come back to that on another video because this is already going to run pretty long at this point. But I want you to consider the idea of this, a little definition of success that I stole, I believe, from Deepak Chopra. And it goes like this. Success can be described as the continual unfoldment of happiness in the progressive realization of worthy goals. I would put that as do mighty deeds and feel good now. All right, now we're talking about the distribution of power and how you hold on to it by distributing it. And we're going to talk about what I'll call the others. I'm not the first one to call them the others. I guess Timothy Leary was. I became more familiar with it in the rune soup world. I also inhabit, among other worlds. But this idea of the other magic people, the other strange folk, and just other people in general. Because if you could just plug into a matrix world and just go and experience the senses, all of the sensory experiences you had would quickly become memories of sensory experiences as you pursued another one. But I believe we wouldn't just stay there even if we could control all those experiences and program them. Eventually, we would want to interact with the others. We'd want to interact with other intelligences outside of ourselves. We'd want to be surprised. We'd want to not have scripted lines for everybody. Surprise is one of the things that creates fun in the world. So, do you really want to control it all, or do you want to be in the game? So the others out there, the other people, the other ones, fellow magic users and creatures are out there, and we should connect with those. And there's a little phrase, I took this from a guy called Jordan Harbinger. I'm not sure if it's original to him, but the idea of dig the well before you're thirsty. Create friends and networks before you need them, before you're asking them for favors. That goes for humans and non-human intelligences. And that kind of idea. So taking action first and harvesting later. Or not harvest, let it go to seed. This kind of idea of taking action, of being in control of taking action, of being proactive, dare I say, embodying the act of being a road opener, which is what mise en place is. Back to that again. It's uncrossing. It's opening roads. It's the first step when you're doing big magic. You know, what are those opportunities? And what I'm going to suggest is that by focusing on habits, you are what you're actually doing is increasing the means of manifestation for stuff that you want to show up in your world. That it's one thing to enchant for a lover. It's another thing to enchant for charisma. It's one thing to enchant for money. It's another to enchant for money-making power. So a lot of this is about the person you become on the way to establishing the world you want. And some of it's going to look a hell of a lot like magic. And some of it's not going to look that much like magic. The stuff that doesn't look that much like magic, we're gonna haunt it. We're gonna magic it up. I think that was what I stole from Gordon White. We're gonna haunt it. We're gonna fill it with magic. And that's just gonna make it that much more exciting. It's gonna make it more palatable for us. It's gonna invite in the world of magic to participate in our goals, and ultimately to help dissolve the barrier between the magical world and the so-called non-magical world. Won't that be nice? I want to suggest to you the idea that communal power is personal power. That if you build a network, that network is always stronger than even powerful individuals. That we can use the idea of fractal wealth, like teaching a skill or giving a cutting of a plant to a friend that then becomes a new plant of its own, without diminishing your own wealth, without losing the skill that you taught somebody. In fact, by strengthening those things and strengthening the networks at the same time. I hope this gives a better sense of the point of this and what this is all moving towards. And I've come to the realization in a conversation with a friend the other day on a friend's podcast, Nightbird Radio with Tim Saylor, fellow magic user and interesting thinker. Very good conversations on there and highly recommend it. I'll put the link down in the description. You should check it out. And we were talking about this idea, and I said, I feel like I've rolled into town with a cart and I'm showing you all robot arms and things like that, but there's no real sense of what these things do to click together and how they work. So what does the magical game do to a person over months or years? What does a day playing this thing look like? How do these boss fights really work? What do they look like when they're done? And sort of an overview to get a sense of what a period of playing this game is like. So that's something that has to happen soon. There's also going to be a video coming up on the suits, which is the order of operations in the game, and also its categories for various types of activities and things in the game. And then we're coming up on the improv game itself. It's a game called Imp. And lovely art. But it's called Imp, and it's an improv game. And I've been working out the kinks, but I think it pretty much should be ready to go in a few weeks. And this is how these things happen, these kinds of brainstorms. All right, so stuff coming forward. Imp game. There's a psychic school thing I'm going to be doing in January, dealing with some of those books, the Ruling the World from Your Couch and Radical Intuition and things like that. We're going to jump into some of those in January, because besides being able to improvise, having access to your intuitive capacities is going to be very useful no matter what this world winds up being. We'll know more about that soon, maybe, I don't know. And then we will proceed in earnest, magicking up the world and your life, stirring up happy trouble and good chaos. All right. Wishing you all the best out there in this crazy world. Hoping to be back sooner rather than later with some updates on the boss fight currently in progress and things to come. And we'll leave it there. Seeing you.